is the HomeTech Podcast for Friday, maybe, April 26th. From Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson.
From Reynoldsburg, Ohio, I'm TJ Huddleston.
And from Pickering, Ontario, I'm Gavin Campbell.
And welcome to the HomeTech Podcast, a podcast all about home automation, home technology. And tonight's going to be Home Assistant, where that's all we're going to talk about, I think. I mean, it's not like...
Is there anything else to talk about?
This is actually just a Home Assistant show now.
Oh, my gosh.
If you don't care about Home Assistant, then...
Yeah, tune out now.
Yeah. The HomeTech Podcast has evidently joined the, what do they call it? The Open Home Alliance thing or whatever. So, yeah.
We're getting paid by, Nabucaso, so please sign up for their... subscription.
None of that is true, however.
No.
We do have some interesting Home Assistant adjacent news that relates very much to the custom installation channel. This is breaking on this show. You won't find it out anywhere unless you have been perusing Facebook groups, as where we confirm this information. But this is all TJ. TJ investigates, and that's a teaser for you. But what isn't a teaser, well, maybe it is, and you haven't done it yet, we are sending out stickers. We have sent out stickers to Drew in California, Dean in Oregon, Ilongo in Canada, Nathaniel in Massachusetts, and Peter all the way in Sweden. So if you want a sticker, all you have to do, HomeTech.fm/ feedback or feedback at HomeTech.fm. Yeah, the email address. You can email us and say, hey, send me a sticker. Here's my address. And TJ has been buying illegal stamps on Facebook, and he's going to send you a sticker.
They're not illegal. They're surplus or something from somebody I've never heard of. Yeah, I will send them anywhere. I don't care where in the world you are, and you don't have to be a Patreon member or anything like that. I'm just sending stickers out. So if you listen to the podcast and you want a sticker, all you have to do is send us an email, and there's nothing else involved. I mean, how much easier does it get than that?
I just want to thank all the listeners that, offered to bring me the sticker to Canada. I was only joking that the import duties were so high, but I really appreciate everyone was looking out and all the witty comments like, Gavin made me spend money. I'm glad I'm doing my part, makes me feel like an influencer when I hear things like that.
That is what we're here for. Everybody thinks that this is just like a news show, but honestly, I just try to get people to spend money every week.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love spending other people's money.
Yeah.
That's what I was in the business for. Yeah.
Send us your totals.
We should have like a tracker website going on, added to Seth's domain list. How much money has HomeTech made us spend?
Oh, we should have done that.
Don't give them another domain name. Don't give
HomeTech.fm/tracker. We don't even need a domain.
I was just going through my domain names the other day and ran across the the button database that we did, the price per button database. And so probably need to check that out again one of these days. But
I say we bring back router hats.
I love the router hats.
I need router hats and access point covers.
They got to look comfy in the winter. Speaking of websites, if you go to YouTube, it's a website that I hear the new generation Z frequents.
YouTube,
I think is what it's called.
That's what.
Yeah, it's where evidently I get ads, but if you pay for it, you don't. You can watch our podcast on there. And when I say watch podcast, do I mean that you're going to see anything? No, you'll just see the picture and the podcast will play. But a lot of people evidently like doing that. So if you are listening on YouTube, well, first of all, thank you. And you can hit subscribe. And this show comes out just about every week. Maybe. Depends on if we are recording at midnight on Thursday night or Friday morning, whatever you want to call it. And if I can get it edited in fast enough before I go to town for the weekend.
No. The answer is no.
It's probably not. Yeah. And if you want another website to go to, we also have our Mastodon server. Now, this is the fun one because you can learn all sorts of things on HomeTech.social. We're not just the .fm, we're also the .social. And yeah, it's just a Mastodon server. But if you want to get in there, you have to say, hey, why? There's a little question. It says, why do you want to be part of this? Why? It asks you, and you have to really think about it. But all you really have to do is say, I love Gavin, or I heart Gavin, or Gavin rules. And Gavin will let you right in. So just make sure you do that. And that's the secret code that we keep everybody else out, including the escort service that tried to sign up the other day. Maybe, I don't know. I didn't check to see if Gavin approved that one or not.
I didn't approve it. I wanted to see what kind of services they offer. So, I was just trying to see if they were legit or not. So I clicked on it, opened it up, browsed their webpage. I didn't approve of what they had, didn't like their selection. So I didn't approve them.
Okay. Well, there we go.
But I have to do my due diligence every time. It's like I go through my junk folder and I click on all the links, and I do my due diligence to make sure that they were junk or not before deleting them,
oh, this one is offering me $1,000. Maybe I should contact them.
Exactly.
He's keeping his the moderation duties.
I'm serious about it.
Pretty much, I just look at the accept or the people that apply, and I'm like, man, does this sentence make sense? And if the sentence makes sense, I'm like, yeah, that's good enough, because the ones that are spam are very obvious. It's like the most like random combination of words that they could like think of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's my thought process behind it.
I usually, will this account annoy Seth? Approved.
and then will this account annoy Gavin after it annoys Seth? Whoops, Seth better go delete it. Anyway, those are the couple of websites. Well, first HomeTech.fm/feedback if you want a sticker, and then with it may or may not get to you depending on whether there's mail fraud going on with these bootleg stamps TJ has found on Facebook, and then. Let's see. And then, youtube.com. It's a very famous website. You just search for HomeTech FM podcast in there and it'll bring you right to the page. And then Mastodon, HomeTech.fm/social. And also I found on our this is the kind of cool stuff that you find out about when you're on Mastodon. It doesn't work like Twitter, where Twitter is just like, hey, here's the stuff for your eyeballs I think you want to see. And it just shoves them in there. You actually have to follow people. And when you follow people, you find really cool posts like this about, this is from a user on a different Mastodon instance, but somehow I ran across it because that's what I follow cool people and they post cool things like this. And they were talking about Netflix not being supported on an old TV, which, that happens, I guess, depending on how old the TV is. Netflix is like, hey, we don't think it's worth our money to keep trying to support this old TV. So we're just going to, and it gives you this thing. It says, this device is no longer supported. To watch instantly, please see HTTPS devices netflix.com for a list of supported devices. So I guess if you have an older TV, sometimes they kill the Netflix app on them. But this person who is named Third Spruce Tree on the left says he was working for a certain a Canadian fruit company, which I thought was hilarious because that he later admits it's BlackBerry. But he said he was working on a set-top box. That's right, a BlackBerry TV. And it was amazing. It got killed because Netflix didn't really want to deal with it. They weren't forecasting enough selling enough units to, quote, make it worth their time. And they were doing all the work, but Netflix didn't want to support sending video to it. So they just kind of threw it away. But that would have been really cool because at the time, like a long time ago, BlackBerry was a really innovative company. They had really cool user interfaces and that kind of thing they were coming out with. And man, a BlackBerry TV, it's kind of cool. That's the first I've ever heard of a BlackBerry TV project. But I suppose all these big tech companies at the time, they have all sorts of little projects in the works, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it seems like a streaming device really isn't that much, or isn't that far off of like an actual cell phone anyway.
Yeah.
Seems like it'd be actually more simple to create a streaming device, so this doesn't seem like a far reach at all. Would have definitely been interesting to see this come out, but we know the history of BlackBerry, even though they are still a successful company today, but nowhere near what they were before.
Yeah, I think they're owned by the company that makes don't they have RAM? Are they still owned by RAM, which has like the car talking thing, the car network?
Yeah, their big thing is like cars and shipping logistic, like tracking software and stuff like that, I think.
Are you talking RIM?
Yeah, RIM.
Research in Motion.
Yeah.
Cool company. It's up in Canada.
Close to Gavin, I think.
Well, I worked across the street from, the main area in Waterloo. And I was sitting there as they bought more and more buildings throughout the city. And then I was also still there as they started selling off more and more buildings in the city. So I almost witnessed the rise and fall of BlackBerry.
There you go. Well, I'm not going to go over the summary of the websites, but there's a few websites you should visit. HomeTech.fm/support is another one. And that'll bring you to our Patreon page. If you don't know about the Patreon page, we'll review how you can support HomeTech later in the show, but that URL right there will tell you all about how you can support the show if you would like to donate us anything. You find what we talk about fun and entertaining. It helps keep the lights on and support other people's sticker habits. So
I don't want to spoil anything either, but we might be working on our own streaming device. So if you give us money, we might be able to make that happen.
It might happen. Also headphones, Wi-Fi headphones.
Oh, wouldn't that be a good idea? I was just thinking like a little streaming box in the side, like the shape of a house, just like a little like kid's toy house. That's what the streaming box could look like. I think that's a good idea.
Gavin can 3D print that.
I like the headphones better. with AI.
We can have AI in anything, Gavin. We can have AI in a streaming box.
Oh yeah.
We just tell people it's AI. Yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to have AI. That's the trick. You can just say it is.
It's AI and blockchain.
Well, blockchains. You could just say Web3 or something.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Well, we do have a ton of news tonight, although I'm kind of stalling here, but we're just going to go what we call a speed round on the HomeTech headlines tonight. So what do you say we get started?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, USA, the net neutrality is back. This is breaking news, actually. I think it happened today as we record. The FCC has voted pretty much down party lines to restore net neutrality rules and regulations that were basically in place back in 2015 and unwound again in 2017. Now, a couple of years later, with a 3-2 Democratic majority, the FCC is aiming to regulate the broadband industry more strictly and redefining internet service as basically legacy telephone lines. The FCC now have clear authority to address public safety and national security concerns. There's also stuff about here not selling your personal data off to tech companies. They're regulating the ISPs a little bit more on that. It's interesting. There's a couple of other things that kind of like put into this vote. It wasn't just bringing back those net neutrality rules, but I thought those were good. I was surprised they even came up or happened in the Obama administration, and then they were taken away a couple of years later. Unfortunately, it's been kind of Wild West, but they just basically mean that AT&T, Comcast, Verizon can't sell a slower connection basically to make they can't force like Walmart.com to load slower than Amazon.com or something like that. So everything should get the same treatment across the board. So I don't know. I think that's how the internet was and should be. And we just pay a flat price for it. It's utility. Come on. It's nothing special. It's just bits.
Yeah.
Blinky lights.
I think that's a good idea. And I feel like it should be taken a step further, though I'm not sure how they would necessarily do that. But the silly things with carriers making certain websites and stuff not count against your data limit. I don't know what the proper way to deal with that is, but I don't think that should be allowed either.
Yeah, that would go away.
Just sell the data and that's it.
Yeah, I know like Bell up here, I believe their TV, if you stream their TV on your cell phone, it doesn't count towards your limit or something like that. Like, yeah, there's many rules to it. And, I'm pretty sure our rules are a little different than yours, though.
It may be more civilized. I don't know. Here's an interesting story I ran across. I don't really have much to say on it, but I think it's very interesting. Espressif Systems, which is basically the company behind all the ESP chips out there, which run the freaking world. If you ever do a LAN scan or something on your LAN, you will find an Espressif Mac. 9 times out of 10, most of the IoT devices are running on an ESP board of some type, of some vintage. They have bought another company called M5 Stack, and they have a ton of like modular IoT devices. They have little devices with screens on them, all sorts of little modular computer type devices that basically run Espressif boards inside. So this kind of makes sense to me. It's kind of a complementary product buy. I don't know, Gavin, you kind of had some thoughts on this one when it comes to like hardware for DIY products. It does seem like a good buy, and hopefully M5 Stack, I think you were saying that they had problems with inventory. Maybe now they won't, now that they're owned by the company.
Well, M5 Stack made all those little devices that Home Assistant was, they were pushing, that they were developing their voice assistant on. And every time Home Assistant mentioned one of their new one of the devices they were playing with, it was sold out like instantly. Right? Like people went crazy. And I just thought it was very interesting, especially with their State of the Open Home last week, where they talked about they're getting into some hardware, making some hardware moves. I believe they said they're going to be announcing some hardware voice assistants and stuff like that. I wonder if they're partnering with M5 Stack and Espressif just decide to buy them to
make it clean. Yeah. Make it one vendor. Yeah.
Yeah. And probably back it with more inventory, more money to be prepared for these. I just thought the timing was interesting. These two companies were interesting, especially with all the announcements going on. So that's just my theory. I have no inside news or anything like that. This is just what I was thinking.
Oh, we have plenty of inside news coming. So especially around Home Assistant.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Anyway, let's move on here. I did say lightning round, so we'll keep going through this. I ran across this story too on Mastodon, so you should check it out. But this is an R story. It's talking about QDEL, like not OLED or QLED, but QDEL, quantum dot electroluminescence screens that are coming out.
If you didn't know, TV technologies are getting complicated before. They're definitely going to keep getting more complicated.
More 4-letter names.
QDEL.
Yeah, this is a 2023 white paper from Nanosys and Sharp Display. It outlines how they manufacture these QDEL screens, and it sounds interesting. Basically, right now TVs need a backlight or computer screens, whatever you want to call it. They have a backlight that will shine light through something that changes colors. OLEDs don't need that. They have to power them up. I think the difference between this one is like the light source comes from it comes from the QDEL pixels themselves, not from a backlit thing behind it. So this looks interesting. There's a whole bunch of information because it's an Ars Technica article. So go check it out. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. I know we talked about this in the past, Garage, when we were talking about the RAT GDO stuff, but the BlackQ, I guess is black. the MyQ alternative is out from Connected. It's BLAQ. And BlackQ. I don't know. I think they were going for black because it's in a little black box. But this is kind of a more, what I would say, official looking, productized version of RAT GDO. So if you have RAT GDO, I wouldn't run around and try and get this thing. If whatever you're doing is already working. But if you've been on the fence about getting RAT GDO because it was this weird little thing that comes in as a computer board and you weren't sure about purchasing it, this is probably the product for you because this is like a finished product completely. It's got all of Connected's nice little safety features and stuff built in that they've already had on their garage door opener, but it works with MyQ stuff. So check it out.
Yeah, this actually looks nice. It looks like something I would put into a client's house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, it's got a control 4 driver will be coming soon for it too. Yep. So that's a selling point right there. I'm going to buy two. Actually, I have a RAT GDO, but I'd really love to check this out. But it's still up for pre-order. Looks like the first half of the orders will go in April, and the next half will go in May. So it looks really good, though.
Yeah, nice looking product. $89 on their website. Works not only with Control 4, but also smart things, Alexa, Home Assistant, Habitat, and Home Seer. So,
nice.
Yeah, it already works with those. Control 4 drivers coming shortly. I think he's working with Alan on that one because Alan wrote the RAD GDO integration. Also, this product, if you didn't know, runs on an Espressif board. So there's another ESP32 chip there for you. Pretty cool product. And a cool company. Nate's really great. I think you guys were standing there when we were talking at CEDIA. Yeah, we were all.
Yeah, we met him at CEDIA.
Nice guy. All right. Big news from Sonos. They've got something new coming, TJ. It's an app update.
Well, actually, I like this one. I'm fine.
Sonos is set to release a major update to its mobile app on May 7th, aimed at enhancing user experience and connectivity with its speakers. The revamped app will update the S2 app. The Sonos S2 app features redesigned interface and centralized home screen, persistent search bar, and direct access to shuffle and repeat buttons. I guess that's nice. Users can also customize the home screen with scrollable carousels of playlists and reorder sections as desired. It's a little customization coming in there. I also said, I think I read somewhere else there was some product, like how you set up a product. I guess the wizards that go along with setting up the products would change a little bit too. So I don't know, nice little app update. I like how The Verge phrases this where it says, it's an app update and it's getting ready for the upcoming wireless headphones. They're just tossing that in there like that's going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I mean, the Verge would know. I mean, they're usually wrong about a couple of things, but I feel like they might know in this. Maybe Sonos will update my speakers so they stop dropping off my network too. That'd be great.
Never.
It's only the newer products too, which is even more annoying.
Oh, you know what? The headphones won't be new. That's their headphones still use the old Sonos net thing, so you don't have to get worried about.
Maybe they'll have really good noise canceling. When my Sonos doesn't work, I can just put the headphones on. They won't work with the Sonos system, but yeah, I won't be able to hear anything then.
You can't hear yourself screaming.
That's nice.
Make sure you have good Wi-Fi. You know.
Well, if you need good Wi-Fi, there's another company that's come out with something pretty cool. The Unifi Dream Machine Pro Max. This is a new product from Unifi. It's got one 10 gigabit SFP for WAN and one 2.5 gigabits RJ45. On the LAN side, it's got another 10 gigabit SFP plus and 1 gigabit RJ45s. It's got plenty of 5 gigabits throughput. It's got an SSD built inside, quad core processor, 8 gigabytes DDR. No PoE. Boo. That's not really a pro product.
Oh, pass.
Yep. And about $600 USD. Let's see. It's up on the product. It's out for sale now. So you can go ahead and add that to your cart if you were in the market for a 10 gigabit router. I mean, for a 10 gigabit router, that's really not that bad of a price, I don't think.
Yeah, you could get the old one though.
Yeah, it seems like the biggest reason to get this is if you wanted to have like a bigger all-in-one machine for like the camera systems, but you can't even do that because it doesn't have PoE out. So the regular UDM Pro and SE only has one hard drive bay, and this one has two, which I feel is kind of weird, but I don't know. I feel like this is just a weird gap product.
I think it's also for larger enterprises and stuff too. So it supports a lot more devices, a lot more unified devices, more like that, right? So at that point, you'll have other switches handling your PoE. This is not something for us at home. We'll never push this.
Oh, people will buy this and put it in their homes.
That's what you think.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a 2.5 gigabit RJ on it, so people are going to buy it just for that.
I've already got one coming to replace my SE. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah, so you got the SE, which the SE. I guess the SE and the Pro already had 10 gigabit. I wasn't paying attention to that.
Yeah, just 10 gig WAN though. I thought maybe WAN as well.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it had both on the LAN and WAN side.
On the SFP.
Yeah. On SFP, right? But they didn't have the 2.5 EZ RJ45.
Good. Now Reddit can stop complaining about that.
The thing you have to really watch for is that the routing throughput for the 5 gigabits. That's not 10. That's 5.
Yeah, which is almost never good for Ubiquiti for some
because it's 5 and not 10. Yeah. It should be closer to 10. It's considerably slower on the it's 3.5 on the Dream Machine Pro, and on the Special Edition 3.5 it says 3.5 plus. I don't know what that means, but plus is maybe better. But yeah, 5 is. Yeah, I don't know. If you maybe they could add some more memory in there. I don't know. But yeah, it is what it is. It's $5.99. What can you complain about? That's not going to get you what's it called? Netgate router. That at $5.99, what are you going to get? You're going to get the little business router, and it's not even going to have that stuff on there. It's not going to be 10 gigabit. So good price. All right, who matters this week? This is a cool project, open source project. Do you like HomeBridge? Do you have devices that are on HomeKit that aren't HomeKit compatible? Well, now there's a product called MatterBridge out that does the same thing except for Matter. So it'll put it on your Matter network. And now you can have devices that are not, I mean, there's plenty of devices. I all the Shelly devices, right? I have my Shelly devices. I can wire them through HomeBridge. Now I can make all my Shelly products Matter compatible and use my Matter network. And I think the best thing we saw on this one thing that it has a log. It has a log in there. It can tell you what's going on. There's a log.
Can I bring my Matter devices into Matter so I can get the log?
I don't know. Nice. I don't think so.
Now we can actually troubleshoot my stuff. That'd be cool.
It just works exactly like HomeBridge does, except it's for Matter. I love this. This is amazing. This is great.
One of those cool projects made by the community. Yeah, I think this will give Matter compatibility to all those products that will never get Matter. But now you can bring your Zigbee, your Z-Wave into the Matter ecosystem and be able to use them on. Imagine now you can add Z-Wave devices to the Amazon ecosystem through the MatterBridge. Like
that's cool.
It's a brilliant idea, right? Like it opens up a lot of possibilities. So we'll see what people do with it.
They even have a Zigbee to MQTT plugin for it. So any Zigbee devices you have can be brought in through this and put on a Matter network. That's wild.
Yes.
Smart people. Well, I've done HomeBridge. I have one of those running because I have it ties in the Control4 system. The Control4 system is on HomeKit, and maybe I should upgrade that to be from HomeKit compatible to Matter. I could have I have the Matter Control4 system.
Oh, there you go. First Matter in Control4.
Control4 matters. Yay.
Put it in the Connect4 group.
First. Whoops. Yeah. My bad. Didn't mean to rename that group. Well, I
Gonna
did.
get fired. He was just like, wait a minute, you did mean to do that.
I did need to remain the group, but it did not mean to. I thought I could rename it back, but Facebook is like, nope, you need to wait 29 days or something. So I guess it's Connect 4 until the end of the month. Whoops. All right. We have, as we move here, I'm just going to warn everybody, we're moving into the home assistant section of the show, which there's some decent news. And you think we're going to talk about the Open Home Foundation and everything. But, there was some news on that. Gavin has already kind of mentioned it. Let's talk about that first. So Home Assistant has the people, I guess, how do we explain this? The people behind Home Assistant and Nabu-Casa have basically started a not-for-profit in Sweden and moved all of the control for Home Assistant and other related projects. Like I think they do the ESP Home, like they're part of that as well. That's been moved into this Open Home Foundation, which is a not-for-profit organization that is going to oversee these projects. And then there are members of this not-for-profit that are basically supporters of the not-for-profit that are paying, membership dues or whatever. And Nabu-Casa is the only member at this point, and all the people that work there are on the board, which are the founders of Home Assistant. So it's kind of like Gavin, you put it pretty well. Like this kind of ensures that if somebody came to Nabu-Casa with a bunch of money and said, hey, we really want to buy you guys out, we want to invest a ton of money into you, and we want to help you guys move Nabu-Casa forward, they could do that. And then they would get really, would turn into a big company, and then maybe one day get squirrely and get away from Paulus and all those guys. And then all of a sudden Home Assistant is not open source anymore and charges money, and, they change the licensing on it or whatever. So this kind of protects that from happening mostly, because it keeps that vision alive, that it's like an open source project. Anyone can load it onto whatever computer you want, no questions asked, and you can start integrating with it. And I don't know, I think the more the Open Home Foundation websites, honestly, it's fairly disappointing to me, because I was hoping to see like their founding documents to understand this a little bit more, but I started thinking about it's probably in Swedish. I probably wouldn't understand it at all. But they have the fundamental principles that they're fighting for: privacy, choice, and sustainability. This is basically like the hippiest version of home technology you can possibly get. But I love it. It's all good values to have that they're putting into this. So this is a really cool project, and I do wish them well on this.
It was really I'm not even going to try to understand it or try to explain it, but the way they said it, it protects basically Home Assistant from getting bought out by a bigger company, right? Which is better for us. As we invest more time, we don't have to worry about in the future, this may become bought by somebody and then made closed source. And, that's kind of like
what we're seeing that right now. What we have seen it happen a number of times. It look at Red Hat Linux, right? That was...
Yes, that was recently too, right?
Fairly recently, it's within the last couple of years for sure.
Yeah.
It was basically a free... everybody, when I was still running Windows, everybody's like, oh, you should check out Linux. I was like, easiest one to get was Red Hat. You get a copy of Red Hat, you'd set up a CD and it would load, and all of the drivers were built into it. It would work. Well, that was like the enterprise Linux of choice, and they just basically ran that down. And all of a sudden one day they just changed the licensing, and now it's a paid thing. Like you want to use it, it's paid. Sorry. And there's a bunch of other stuff, like Redis is having issues right now. There's some drama over that. That whole project has been basically... it's dead. It's been forked, and Amazon and Google and everybody else are using some other software. So yeah, all of these open source projects, they're great at the beginning, but then what happens is once they get enough adoption and enough financial, commercial interest, then the big money guys start to take over and start to influence it a lot. And then sometimes they're like have enough influence where they're like, hey, this thing that says license where it's free, we're just going to delete that because we can, because we own this and we can do whatever we want. And then from here, you can still use this old janky version, but we're going to advance it a little bit more this direction, and you're going to want to use that. That's what they always do. So this is kind of like a backstop against that from happening. It's kind of a great idea.
But even more than that, they also protect themselves from any influence from outside influences. And I don't know, I can't explain how they explained it, If you really want to see how they explained it, just go watch the State of the Open Home 2024 video where they went into it. But the way I understood it, like an external company, won't be able to influence them with money and stuff like that. Like they will be able to do what they want, how they want, and continue to operate that way. And that's what I like about Home Assistant. They seem to just move along doing their own thing, and you either like it or you don't, but you're coming along for the ride.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely a very opinionated group, right? As are we, we have our opinions about Home Assistant and how it could run.
Yeah. But they have a good opinion. Like, I agree with their opinion when they're like, we want to keep everything, open, and we want to keep it so that, you buy a device and it continues to work in the future. And that requires, make sure they're local devices, stay away from cloud, stuff like that. I really like, where they're pushing things.
One of the big things I saw in this, one of these press releases was that Nabucasa has 30 full-time employees. And that floored me. Like,
that's a lot.
Yeah, they made a couple of acquisitions, like they bought the ESP Home thing, although that was like an open source project, but they probably hired the person behind it, right?
Same with Raspy. They took the guy that was doing all the voice stuff. They hired him on board.
So they're going out and they're making, I mean, it's amazing. Like, you would think that there's money behind these projects, right? So like they have money coming in from
the subscription service.
Well, not just subscription services. I mean, they gave it a good example when they partnered with, I think it was Z-Wave or Zigbee. Basically, instead of making an agreement where there's some kind of like financial thing, you're going to basically agree to pay for the salary for one person or to work at here at this company, and that's the sponsorship that the company can provide, and that's actually a pretty cool idea, like. They're getting enough investment where they can actually pay someone to work full time, 30 people to work full time on Home Assistant or Home Assistant adjacent projects. That's great. I'm excited.
And they did announce they hit the 1 million user mark. So that was big news too to them. They now have 1 million active installs.
Well, I guess we can probably talk about TJ investigation. This is breaking news here on the show. And
you don't know this anywhere else.
You won't find this anywhere else unless you're on Facebook.
Well, by the time Seth edits the show, it's going to be open.
Everybody's going to know. It's going to be a CE Pro by then.
You've probably already heard about this breaking news from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, TJ, what were you doing before the show, and what'd you find out?
Yeah, so we'll get more into this a little bit later, but I was setting up a new MacBook, and the Mac is kind of cool. It just transfers all your stuff, but it didn't transfer the actual login for Home Assistant. And so I opened Home Assistant, and it does a little thing where it tries to discover a server automatically, which is always great because you don't have to type in the IP address or anything. And so I go to the automatic server lookup page, and I see several Home Assistant servers, which isn't weird. I have one from Innovo that's running right now. That's the professional Home Assistant hub thing to bring Home Assistant devices into a LAN, or NICE as it's terribly named now. The other one is my actual Home Assistant server, which I use every day. And the third one was, what is this labeled? Josh Nimble. And it had the IP address of one of my Josh.ai devices, which I think is the server that I have. And so for some reason, Home Assistant was picking up the Josh device. And so I was like, well, that's kind of weird, but maybe they use the same port or something like that. That happens sometimes. And so I opened the IP address with the port, and I tried to log in with my Home Assistant ID, and it wouldn't work. So what does that mean? I think that means that Josh is using Home Assistant in some capacity.
If there was only someone you could ask.
Yeah. So I posted this. There's a Josh.ai pro group, and I posted it on there, and somebody who will not be named responded and said that
the initials are Alex Capisalage.
They said that it's part of the Josh Nimble architecture to expand capabilities and integration. So Home Assistant is running via Josh.ai in some capacity, and that is how they're getting their Nimble development suite.
Well, yeah, it could be just part of it. Like it's how they're getting some deeper integrations without actually having to write the integrations. Home Assistant has tons of integrations with very popular products, and Home Assistant has a great API.
Which I always thought was the right thing to do, right? Because the Josh.ai is a really solid platform. But until recently, they never focused on the home automation, and so they don't have like a ton of integrations with home automation products. And the easiest way to do that is by offering Home Assistant. And as I mentioned earlier, Lenovo already has what they call the Magic Cube, which is a Home Assistant in a box that integrators can use. And so it made sense to me that you'd basically just partner with Lenovo and offer this little cube, and that way you could get everything that Home Assistant offers into Josh.ai. So it's here in some capacity.
Except they don't have to do that at all because they have their own computer running in your house on their little thing, and they can just load Home Assistant right onto that.
Yeah.
And again, Home Assistant has a great API. They have an API for the back end. They have an API for the events, and they have an API for the entire front end. You can replace all of that. You don't have to run Home Assistant front end. People change that all the time. So adding things in, doing these types of integrations is not a problem because Home Assistant, all underneath all the shiny, cards and everything that they're working hard on, like it's still just, it's got an API for all that. It's all an open API, and you can integrate right down with that. And they don't, Josh.ai has their own interface. They have their audio interface. They have their app. They have everything. All they have to do now is, and it's kind of what they were already doing, honestly, because the driver for the Control 4, you drop that in your Control 4 system, it gathered up the project information, spat it over to Josh. Josh processes that and renders all of the light bulbs and TVs and audio video stuff on the Josh.ai system. And it just communicates back and tells Control 4 what to do. Same thing, I think, with their Crestron driver, all that stuff. So it kind of just seems like this is what they were doing before. Why wouldn't they keep doing it? And I mean, this is, again, probably... What's funny is the article that we'll put in the show notes about the Open Home Foundation from who is it? Jennifer Dewey? Yeah, she wrote that. Over at The Verge. Jennifer Pattison Dewey. That article came to me from a couple of different sources. It was in our hub, and then also a couple of integrators sent it to me. And the little smart home platform that was kind of like what triggered them to send it to me. It's like, hey, have you ever heard of this? It's like, well, my friend,
have I?
Let me tell you about the most popular home automation platform on the planet right now. It's kind of funny that most integrators don't even know this exists. And their first exposure may be through Josh.ai and using it without even knowing they're using it through a professional project like that.
This is insane. They're just going to be able to open up the doors for so many integrations now. Because, with the ZHA and Z-Wave, they can bring them all into Josh.ai.
Yeah.
And Josh is your controller. It's your front end. It's your voice. Like Josh has one of the greatest voice assistants I've seen, like just with how it works and what you can do with it. And wow.
Yeah, and the automation selection through Josh is pretty nice. And so like what my eventual goal would want to be is basically use Home Assistant to bring everything in, and then just use Josh to actually automate and control everything. Because the interface for Home Assistant isn't that good. And to create a nice interface, you have to edit YAML, and I'm not touching YAML, guys.
Oh, but that's just through their interface. That's how they customize their interface. Like Josh.ai, they have their own software that they write that interacts with the same API that Home Assistant works with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one layer removed. Anybody could go in and make a new interface for Home Assistant, do whatever they want, make it look completely different, reskin it.
Yeah, but nobody wants to do that.
It's a lot of work, right?
I mean, look what you came up with, a hot dog theme. Nobody wants that.
Well, again, that was using their interface, right? I could have done a lot worse if it was all my code.
A mayo theme.
So, yeah. So it's awful. It's just like a white background with white text.
Coney dog theme.
I feel like Seth just paused. I feel like he just paused and came up with a new idea, and he's now taking notes. You said male theme. He's like,
Actually, a blue background with white font wouldn't be bad looking.
It's just so bland.
So yeah, depending on when this show comes out, you might not have heard this yet, and you've heard it here first.
TJ Investigates exclusive.
And I got accepted to the Josh.ai Pro community. I just got in. I clicked my first like, I feel special, Now I just put like, when it was like, who are you? Why do you want to join? I said, I'm Gavin. You know me.
Yeah, they just let anybody
You're
in.
a
What's
pro.
with that?
You know me. And
You know me. We talked.
yeah.
Gavin is awesome. It's the same rules that we use on our HomeTech social server.
Are you gonna get me banned?
I'm gonna message them and tell them you wouldn't buy their products.
Let's start a fight on their forums.
Yeah.
Oh man, too good.
That would be awesome if you could like, even if you could still use Home Assistant as your main system, but then tie it in so Josh is your voice control, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome too, right? And
Be killer.
yeah, because that, you can replace your Madam A or Google, even their local one with Josh's voice assistant.
Yeah. And we keep saying Josh.ai is like this speaker thing that you talk to, but it also has a decent app that you can use to control stuff with. Like
The app is really nice.
yeah, there's a whole a web interface and everything too. Like you can log in using your browser and control stuff.
And don't forget the Josh GPT, they have integration with all that too, which is pretty big.
Again, I will say, as far as like the professional space goes, unless we're not talking about acquisition and mergers, but like the only company I've seen innovating in the past 5 years has been Josh.ai at this point.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
honestly.
literally, Josh.
We'll be able to get our Ava remotes into Home Assistant. Like,
I mean, you could already.
yeah, but not shoot through Josh. Yeah.
All right. Well, all the links and topics we discussed tonight can be found on our show notes over at HomeTech.fm/479. All right, let's move on here. We're not going to do the pick of the week. We got a mailbag, and Drew wrote this long letter in here. He says, I love the show and want to ask about your experience with Zigbee and Z-Wave reliability. He started with Habitat in 2020 and had dipped his toes into Home Assistant last year since it could interface with so many other devices. And he kept writing. And so I was like, Drew, this is awesome. This is great stuff. You got a lot of questions here. What I'm going to do is take this and I'm going to paste into ChatGPT and get it to summarize everything for me. He faced challenges with Zigbee network when switching over to Home Assistant. He's replaced some problematic devices. Despite all these issues, the Z-Wave network's been relatively stable, and although encounters occasional issues with the NVLE red switches and the Zeus 800 series Z-Wave dongle. He's seeking some advice from Gavin, because I don't know how to answer any of this. But Gavin, I have a bunch of questions that Chad was able to extract from Drew's message here. But you said you had bullet points and you were ready to go. So
I actually read the message myself. I summarized it myself.
I mean, as soon as you start talking about all this, I'm like, man, this is up Gavin's alley. Like, he's talking about Aquire in here. He's talking about Z-Wave, Zeus.
Yeah.
This is all Gavin. So sorry.
So he mentioned he switched over to the Sonos Zigbee dongle P. I have the same dongle for Zigbee, and it's a great dongle. I have no issues, but just from years of experience, not all devices / routers are made the same with Zigbee, especially when it came to the Aquire one in the early years. And I think they still sell some of the earlier devices. They modified their Zigbee implementation, and their devices didn't always play nicely with everything else, and their newer stuff is a lot better, especially the Zigbee 3.0 stuff. But, that was my early experience with the Aquire just dropping off, and we found out they weren't compatible with a lot of routers. But when you added IKEA to the mix, it was much better because they played nicely together. So you spent a lot of time fighting with Zigbee with that in the early days, right? Nowadays, everything's a lot better. Not all routers are the same in a Zigbee network. Some will only do 6 to 8 devices, right? Where some will do like 30 devices. So you got to keep that in mind when you're planning out your network. The IKEA plugs were only doing 6 to 8 devices, so you had to add more to handle the routing for more devices. And then there's, when it comes to Zigbee, you have to look at how you have your, dongle plugged in, because USB adds interference that can affect your Zigbee signal. And there is a video on the Nabucast or the Home Assistant YouTube channel where they actually showed this. Right. So I have all my dongles running off like a hub that's far from, my servers and everything. I have it centralized in my house, which helps keep the signal centralized, but it helps with interference. So That's something to keep in mind. Now, in terms of Z-Wave, you said you had the Innovelli Reds. I have the same thing. I use LED notifications. He says he's having issues with switches getting messages. The thing about Zigbee, and then he also mentioned he's using the 800 series Z-Wave dongle now, and he sees some errors and stuff like that. So my experience with Z-Wave was the 500 series. When I had a 500 series, I think that was the Habitat C3 or 4 I had. They were solid, right? It worked great. When I moved to the 700 series chip, which was the C7, I think it was, I had a lot of issues with Z-Wave, and it was found out there were a lot of bugs in that firmware, and they updated the firmware over time, but I found it was never stabilized. With the 800 series chips now, there's still a bug in them, right? There's an open issue with them where they can stop transmitting for whatever reason randomly, and you need to do a soft reset on them. So these are known bugs that are in the GitHub for like Z-Wave JS, right? And they're waiting on firmware updates from the manufacturer to fix these things. So none of these chips are perfectly reliable, but the Z-Wave 800 I prefer to the 700. So keep that in mind. We can include links. I have links to all where they record the bugs and, the workarounds and stuff like that, but it's known stuff. You say some of the devices give you a Z1405 error. Looking that up quickly, some mention that may be related to security. So you want to see when you added them, did you add them with full security? Because I try to avoid all security on my network. It just adds extra overhead I never liked. So I leave all the devices joined without security, except for the ones they force you to. So I think logs, garage door openers, stuff like that force you to do security. But everything else I leave with security off. I always had issues whenever I turned on security when joining devices. Also, make sure they interview 100, like the interview process. Make sure it finishes, because sometimes they're like left in this half state. And sometimes I'll have to go to a device and re-interview it and wait for it to get all the information over. Because if you don't finish the interview process, it's not fully added, doesn't have all the features. You want to make sure you do that. When it comes to your automations, try not to send too many messages at once. So I know like you may have something happen and every light in the house, the LEDs will turn a certain color. That's a lot of commands to send at once. You're going to have to break it up. You have to find your limit. I sometimes when I have my nighttime automation, I break the commands up and add a little pause in between just so the commands can be sent, and then they can process them, and then I'll send another bunch of commands to turn off more lights and go through it like that. So just keep that in mind, because that will make your Z-Wave seem like it's hung, but it's just too many messages being sent at once. If you have devices that are older than the 500 series devices, I think it's like the 100 or 200 series, and they are repeating devices, you want to get them off your network. There'll be bottlenecks, right? Because there'll be very low bandwidth to those devices, but if commands are being sent through them, they will like choke the network, right? They can only handle so much. So you pretty much want to make sure your whole network's either like Z-Wave 500 plus or better, right? I have one older device and it's on like the edge of my network. So it's not a repeater, but it sits on the edge. So you want to, I don't know what devices you have. I don't know all the devices, but this is just something to consider as well. And even with your Z-Wave dongle, like I said, you could try centralize it in the house. Mine is in the basement. I put it in the middle of the basement in the roof because I have an unfinished basement, luckily. So I just put it on a long USB cable. And it helps significantly. So all the devices around my house can get to it. So those are just some of the things you can look at. I did have growing pains. I still have growing pains, especially with that 800 series chip issue. I'm waiting for them to fix. But for the most part, once I work through them all, it's pretty stable now. I like to stay with some of the name brands too. I don't like to buy all these cheap knockoffs brands so much because you don't know what you're getting, right? You don't know how they implement it. You don't know how well they work. So I like to stay with the bigger stuff now. So, like I'll stay with Zeus or Innovelli, the name brand, even Aquires new stuff, is pretty good, but they're getting more into Matter now, but their Zigbee 3.0 stuff works really well for me, and the IKEA stuff, if it's an IKEA Zigbee device, I've had no issues with them either. So just like I said, some things to consider.
Wow. My pick of the week is going to be Gavin's Z-Wave Zigbee Masterclass. Was not ready for that. That's great, man.
This is just experience over the last how many years of troubleshooting, because when I ran into problems, I dove deep sometimes into them.
Let me ask this. Do you have any tools in, I guess this would be Home Assistant, that can tell you like where things are routing to, like what devices, like you said, one lives on the edge of your network. Like, do you know that it's kind of at the end of a node, or are you just saying physically it's way over there and it would have to talk to these other devices to hop back? Can you tell where your devices are hopping, like where the communications are hopping throughout the house?
Yeah, in Home Assistant, if you use, I use Z-Wave JS UI or Zigbee to MQTT, they actually have network maps.
Okay, yeah.
That if you go into them, you can see a network map. And my one is for example, my one oldest switch is my pool pump one, which is outside, and I can see that that's on the edge. Nothing's routing through it, but, stuff routes to it. Or when I've had, I have one of their original Zeus power strips, and for whatever reason, every now and then that thing hung, right? And when that thing hung, everything that was routing through it became a problem.
You need a power strip for the power strip.
Yeah. Well, I ended up just taking the power strip off the network altogether because it was just a problem. But looking at the map, I could see everything that was routing through it. Mm-hmm. And that told me, like, that's how I troubleshooted it, because I was like, this light switch isn't working for some reason. Well, it's routing through here. Well, the power switch hung, so I would just like unplug it, plug it back in, and then everything kicked back in,
Yeah.
I have an Innovelli light switch in my family room that for some reason things like to route through it, right? So it kind of gets bogged down at times. So I know, I'll do a network heal and make them redo all their routes and stuff like that. So those network maps are pretty powerful tools. It's kind of even with Wi-Fi. Sometimes you see what routers things are attached to, and I move them around too, because even though they're sitting next to a router, doesn't mean they're going to use that router. They may go across the house to one in the back for whatever reason and use that one instead and have poor performance.
Yep. You never know. I mean, it's you're talking the same things that I've gone through with Control 4 Zigbee over the last 10 plus years. Like it's because I started Control 4 when it was in 125, and when you went to 125, you would upgrade to their, I think it was 130, and that was their like first like public release, I guess.
Yeah.
And basically 90% of the projects out there, like all the Zigbee configuration got wiped, and you had to start over, going around identifying all the. Yeah, it was good days.
And if you really want to go down it, there's like Zigbee and Wi-Fi share some of the same frequencies.
Yeah.
So if you really are having issues with interference and stuff like that, look at your Wi-Fi routers and your Zigbee devices and maybe change the channels things run on too. That's another option to consider.
Yeah, there is. I mean, it's all the kind of the same thing, rundown of the same things, just different ways of getting at it. And that's why I asked about the tools that you could use to troubleshoot. Control 4 had some limited tools, like you could see what the signal levels were on some devices, and you could see kind of where they were routing. Eventually, they came out with like a little routing table where you could see, oh, this device is connected to this one, and that connects to this thing, which may or may not. Was confusing in some respects. There was actually you can't run it anymore, but there was a script that one of the tech support guys wrote, and it would basically connect to all of the Z-Wave nodes and make this HTML page. It would give you a URL to visit on the web page. So basically the tech support guys would run that on the controller, and it would make this like quick thing you can look at, and it would tell you pretty much like what nodes were having, what devices were having the
communication issues. Yeah.
Yep, yeah. So but it was it's all there. It's all in numbers. It was just kind of hard to get at from the Control 4 software that they give you, but you could. And of course, tech support could run that script, or if you knew where to look, you could run one of those scripts, and it would it would do its little thing, like in this bash script and output a HTML page report that you can look at. So yeah, it comes down in most everybody's use case, it comes down to the tools you can use to troubleshoot and find out where these little issues are coming from. And sometimes they're not apparent. I had one, I wouldn't say it was a problem child, but it was a problem child because we were not by our own fault. The builders were behind, but of course, since the builders getting out of the way, we didn't get our stuff done in time. But one of the devices got installed crooked or something from the electrician, and the button was just mashed down. So this device was just sitting there, just reporting like the button is held down, the button's held down, just over and over and over again. And it wreaked havoc on this Zigbee network that we were running with Control 4. And honestly, we couldn't find that. That was one of those things where we had to have one of the tech support people actually fly in from Control 4 and look at it. And it's only ever like in 15 years, it's like the only time that's ever happened to me. But that project was such a problem child. Like the owner was kind of out there. We needed some manufacturer backup. And that's one of those nice things that you can get when you're on the pro side. Like the manufacturer rep will come out and help you troubleshoot and fix things, and get you a level of tech support that you probably would never have.
And you remind me of stuff like, that's true too. A lot of devices come with switches and stuff come with the power monitoring all turned on by default.
Yeah.
So if you installed all your Innovelli switches, you have a bunch of lights on, they're going to be shooting power reports out constantly and they can flood the network. Like if you're using a vibration sensor on your dryer automation, some vibration sensors will report when it starts and when it ends, but some will like constantly report vibration still happening,
still vibrating, I'm still vibrating, and that will flood your network. So one of the things I do is, when I add a new device, I turn off all the features I don't want to use, like power reporting and stuff like that. I hide all the entities I'll never use, and I try and just minimize the amount of traffic on my network to free it up for other stuff. Well, hopefully that helped Drew out. Drew also wrote in and did something that TJ asked. He did it. And if you still want to do this, you can. But Drew included, what is this? The way he names his automations. And I guess this is for you guys in your Home Assistant setups that have more than 2 automations, and one of them doesn't even work because it just says test. But like, what do you guys see here? Is this how you name your automations? And I don't know what I'm looking at, honestly.
Kind of similar. So I usually, mine is a little different. So I go with like what the device is, like motion, Sonos motion, that kind of thing. And then I do the room, but I guess similar concept. So
it looks like he's done the room with an underscore and then what the action is or what it does. Yeah. Sometimes it's a device. Sometimes it's, the other ones he has lighting, just like generic lighting ones. So I don't know.
Whatever works for you.
His is sorted by room, I guess, is what I'm getting here.
Yeah.
Mine just says test, and the other thing says button turn on light or toggle light.
And that's all 2 of them.
That's all 2 of them. Too good. Well, that was a great discussion. So yeah, if you have any questions, feedback, comments, pixel leaks, or great idea of show, give us a shout. Email address is feedback@hometech.fm, or you can visit hometech.fm/feedback and fill out the online form. All right, project updates. Well, first off, there's a new Habitat beta. We want to throw that out there. It got bumped for all the home assistant news we had.
I just want to show love to my Habitat still, because they are still moving fast, and they released a new beta. I don't know how much I could say about it, but if you're not in the beta, it's always worth getting into it because they added Z-Wave long range support, which is exciting. But the key thing is they've been working on their dashboard page. So they've been updating it and adding design changes and making it look a little prettier, which is always a good thing.
Especially with Habitat.
Yes.
All right. Well, Gavin, you've got some projects that you've got on here. And I think, TJ, you have some adjacent products. You guys look like you're... It's springtime, so you guys are working in the backyard.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not nice all year round where we are, so...
Well, when it's nice out, I don't want to work outside.
Well, yeah. Well, your nice is different than our nice.
And then when it's hot, I don't want to work outside either. So it's kind of it's a dual-edged sword.
That is why I left Florida.
Gavin, what are you up to?
No, we're working on a backyard remodel. We just gave the okay to get started. So the contractors will be coming in and ripping up pretty much all the existing brick and everything in the backyard, and putting down new interlock and everything. But when they rip up all that brick, I have plans to go in there and run a bunch of conduits to places for power. These aren't projects I'm going to finish as part of this remodel, but I'm prepping for later on when I'm ready. So I'm going to have a conduit for power, and what would you call it? A low voltage conduit where I could run PoE, Ethernet, and speaker wire, because I plan to eventually at some point put some outdoor speakers there, right? And that would be that's just thinking ahead. These are some of the things I'm thinking ahead. I'll be extending my irrigation. It's so much easier when everything's already pulled up. But the cool thing is I'm going to dedicate one of the zones of my irrigation system to auto refill the pool. So it will have either a nozzle or a hose that comes on a diving board maybe, and then I can tell Amazon lady to, fill the pool for 30 minutes, and she'll open that zone and run the fill for 30 minutes. Or I can even automate, because last year I put in a level sensor, so I can sense when it's too low or too high and have it auto adjust or notify me, and then I handle it just to be safe, right? But that's one of the things that when I tell people with other pools that I'm doing that, you kind of see the light bulb go in their head, and they're like, that's a cool idea, because we know what it's like when you have to refill your pool and you got to pull out the hose, and then you got to put it on, and then you got to remember not to forget that hose is filling the pool, because you'll get distracted
so many
watching.
Times.
Yes. And that hose is still running, but now that I'm like, hey, I could just tell the A lady to, refill the pool for half an hour. I don't ever have to think about it again.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it really is a good idea.
So I'll be adding that in. And then I was, looking for a new driveway camera. My current floodlight camera out there. Not many people make floodlights cameras that look nice, right? That's what I'm finding, but I'm really considering trying to get my hands on one of the Reolink Duos. It's just, I don't know. I don't think the one I want's available in Canada. And TJ, I need you to come up to Canada so you can run all my PoE around my house. Come on, man.
I'm on my way right now.
All right.
I got your stickers with me. Don't worry.
But I really like the Duo just because of the wide, area it can view. I'd really like to get my hands on one and play with it and see how it works with, Blue Iris, cause I hear nothing but good things about this camera. So I'm considering grabbing one of those if I can find one up here.
Yeah, it looks like $159 US. It's probably more expensive Canadian, but
because they have the Wi-Fi or they have the PoE version.
Oh, this is actually a Wi-Fi one. So yeah, I don't know what the
is it the floodlight one though?
It has little raccoon eyes that it can turn on, evidently.
Yeah, so they have a floodlight one, and it has Wi-Fi and power, and it can replace the junction. You put it in the junction box, or I have to jerry rig a junction box for it, but it looks nice.
Why didn't they call it the Reolink Raccoon?
Send in a suggestion email to them.
Just saying.
Because they want people to buy it. That's why.
I mean, it almost looks
nobody wants to buy a raccoon.
It's more of a panda, I guess. I don't know.
There you go. Reolink Panda. That would be a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's $150. It's $40 off right now on their website.
Nice. Because when I was talking to one of our listeners the other day, we were talking about cameras. I actually recommended the Reolink Duo to him, right? Like I said, I always see good things about it. I've never been able to get my hands on one, but it looks like a really nice camera. I might put another one around the side of my house, because then I can view the whole side of the house and not just a limited range, which is really nice, because then I don't need two cameras, just one that shows me the whole side of the house. Mm-hmm. But I really want to see how well it does work.
It's a pretty cool product. I mean, it's got the color night vision, day vision. It's got 180-degree field of view. So it's two cameras put together. That's why it looks like a little panda or a raccoon. And it's a whopping 16 megapixel camera. I guess it's got two 8 megapixel cameras. I don't know how they're figuring that 16 megapixel, but it's a decent enough where you could zoom into something far, far away, and it's not just a blob of pixels. This could be handy for some larger open spaces, or even on the side of a house or something where you wanted to see kind of both directions down the side of the house.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool product. We'll put a link to it.
Those are just some of the projects I'm currently working on.
All right, TJ. You have a picture. Oh, okay. You have a picture of a dog.
Yeah, I got a couple projects going on this week. We started fostering a new dog. His name is Gunther.
Why would you name him after a light switch?
Well, I didn't name him. He already had the name, and he's 2 years old. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep the name for right now, even though it's an awful name. I can only think of Richard every time I say this dog's name. Like, come here, Gunther. And I'm like, I probably shouldn't say that. It's weird. But the dog is good. Usually when we foster dogs, they come from like really awful situations, puppy mills and hoarding situations and that kind of thing. Gunther here came from a divorce, and so he was mostly treated well, and he is pretty well behaved and everything, but his family is separating and they could not keep him, and he was going to be sent to the pound. So we stepped up, and I was like, well, we'll go ahead and just take him. He is a 80 or 90 pound Rottweiler, supposedly American Eskimo mix. And I don't know, if you've never been around a Rottweiler, they have so much personality. This one is no different. Like, he knows when he's not supposed to be doing something, and he gives you like the saddest like puppy dog eyes ever. It's pretty great. Like yesterday or the day before, he was doing something. We've only had him since I think like Monday or Tuesday. But he was doing something, and I looked at him and I said, no. And he just like stared at me, and then he like stared at the wall. And then when I looked away from him, he looked back at me. And so it's just, they're just funny little dogs. So we don't know if we're going to keep this one. He seems all right so far, but only time will tell. So yeah, that's Gunther. We'll include a picture of him there. He is very majestic and big. So he's got the scariest bark I think I've heard in a while. And so our neighbors probably think we're crazy since we have cameras all around our house. We got this new privacy fence installed, and now they just hear this giant dog barking from behind the fence. So.
Oh, well, you're in luck, because Ring actually announced that they're going to have some notifications for dogs barking, the most useless feature ever. Yeah.
Exactly what I want.
What is it? Dogs barking, glass breaking, and what was the other one? Oh, a car alarm. Like the most...
Glass breaking makes sense. I don't want a car alarm one, though.
No,
that sounds awful.
It's awful.
How about a neighbor mowing the lawn?
The only thing that they should have done and worked on was that a gunshot where you could automatically post, nope, it wasn't.
Yeah,
it was a fireworks.
Idea.
And then, why is the helicopter going around the house? Like, those are the only sounds that they need to pick up, and then cross-reference whatever AI database they are. It's like, oh, that's the police helicopter. They're looking for somebody. Or, no, that wasn't a gunshot. That was a firework or a car backfiring. Like, use AI for that. And dog barkings would be good, like if it's your dog and you wanted to know that maybe when you're not at home. But dogs barking is not a good thing. If they used AI to figure out if it was your dog, perfect. If it's your neighbor's dog, I don't want to know. I don't want to know it's your neighbor's dog. So yeah, useless features from Ring. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
About you, Ring. Get out of here, Ring. So yeah, that's Gunther. He got fixed like the day after we picked him up. So I don't know what he thinks about us, but he probably doesn't like us at this point. Just is what it is. So I've started getting the garden ready. I don't know if you guys have ever bought soil before, but you always need more soil than you think you need. And we have these 3 raised garden beds, and then I created a raised garden bed in the front yard, and I bought 50 bags of 0.75 cubic feet of soil. And I didn't even fill my raised garden bed with it, like one of them. So I have to go back and buy a bunch more. Luckily, I have the work van that I can just shove all this stuff into. So it's not that big a deal. I don't have to like rent a truck or anything. I thought about getting bulk delivery of dirt, but then it like gets stuck in your driveway, and then you have to like do wheelbarrows to like get it to places and stuff. And that sounded way worse than just buying it in a bag. So I just bought it in bags instead.
You can also do it. Some places let you go and pick it up, so you can like put plastic down in the back of your truck.
Yeah, see, that sounded even worse.
Well, you keep the truck clean, then you fill it up, and then you bring it home, and it's cheaper.
Yeah, I don't think my boss would be very happy if I took the top off the van.
Oh.
I've done both of these, and I don't have a truck. I have a 2007 Volkswagen Rabbit, and the tarp fits just fine in there, and you can shove as much mulch as you want or dirt in there, and yeah, you can shovel it out. But yeah.
Bags are easier.
The bags are definitely easier, although they make the Volkswagen scrape the bottom of the road a lot easier if you put 50 of them in there. I think I only got like 10 or 15 in the back of that one.
Yeah, I thought about doing, the only reason I thought about doing the bulk one is because it's definitely a higher quality soil. And there's this one, I'm sure there's multiple, but there's at least one like soil company in the area that takes the zoo yard waste and then like mixes it with topsoil.
It's exotic.
They call it Zoo Brew. So I thought about buying that just so I could say I bought it, but I did not.
I mean, you could just say you did and you didn't have to.
Yeah, this is elephant poop right here. That's what this thing is.
That's why my tomatoes are so big.
That's why it's all rocky in there. And then some home automation stuff going on. I've started saving for an autonomous mower. We're not even that far into the season. I've already mowed the grass like 8 times. And I'm kind of just over it already. So I'm going to look into an autonomous mower. I've started offloading electronics. I have a lot of electronics at the office and at the house and everything like that. And I've just posted them on Facebook, and I'll just start slowly selling them off until I reach the $1,000 goal. I think at this moment I'm going to go with the Segway Navimo, the cheaper one. It's like $1,000. It seems to be the best one out that I've seen so far, because it doesn't use a stupid guide wire. I'm not hiding a wire all around my house to use a lawnmower. And especially like my backyard is fenced in anyway, and so like the boundary is the fence. just don't go past the fence and we're fine, which I feel like is easy to do. So I'm gonna save up for that one. I'll figure out the front lawn as I get there, I guess, but even if I just have to mow the front lawn, I'm fine with that. I just don't want to do the backyard all the time, because that's where we actually like hang out and do our gardening and stuff like that. So that would be nice.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, did you get approval for this? Is it just going to appear? Like what?
Actually, I did get approval. I was talking to Nicole about it, and I was like, hey, I'm going to buy an autonomous lawnmower. And she's like, you don't need an autonomous lawnmower.
That's exactly what my wife
And I was like, I do, but let's talk about it, because that's what humans do. And she's like, well, how much is it? And I said, well, it's, $500 or $1,000. She's like, well, that's actually not too bad. You can go ahead and get it. So
that's a wide range. It's 500 to 1,000. I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, I mean that's good.
I'm gonna try that with the wife. Yeah, it's like $10 to 1,200.
Oh, whatever. That's not a big range. Get out of here.
I was
500 to 1,000.
I asked to do the same thing, but she told me I should sell my Jordans. And I said, no.
Yeah. See, that's the key, right? Is because whenever I go to buy new electronics, half the time I'm selling old electronics to get them. And so there's a little bit of give and take, Gavin.
But I need all those.
I mean, does she know that you spent like $4,000 on 3D printers?
I think she doesn't listen to the show.
Exactly.
I built one. Okay, I built it from scratch.
Yeah. I saw you build it with your money.
Exactly.
Your money.
And then one more home automation news. I should have listened to my gut, because my LifeX landscape lights have stopped working with Home Assistant over Matter.
It was only a matter of time.
Oh my gosh. It's such a pain in the butt, because it's like one of those things that like they worked fine. And then I noticed that like 2 of them weren't working anymore. And I was like, that's kind of weird. And then now all 5 of them won't work. And because Matter is a premature standard that nobody has any idea what it does, I don't have any diagnostic tools to figure out why it stopped working.
Sell them.
It's just, yep, it stopped working. That's it. And then you contact LifeX and you're like, hey, I got problems with these lights. They're like, what, does it work with the app? And you're like, yep, works with the app. And they're like, okay, well, that's all we got for you. And it's like, well, that's not, guys, no, it's supposed to be compatible with Matter. Like, somebody has to help me. So supposedly they've escalated me to tier 2 tech support. So we'll see what they say. I'm, whenever I talk to the people at LifeX, they're like, go ahead and reset the lights. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to reset the lights every time they stop responding. Like that's a little ridiculous. So I'm hoping that there's an actual solution. I guess if I just want to, I'll just schedule it through the LifeX app. But I feel like that's probably just what they want. They just want me to just use their app so they can get all my data, and I can't use Home Assistant.
If you sold those, you'd probably have a lawnmower by now, though.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that.
And the good thing is,
I thought about just taking it back to Home Depot and be like, well, I don't have the boxes anymore, but you guys should take these back. Thank you.
Costco would take back anything. We learned that this week.
I know.
Yeah. When you reach tier 4 support, they start contacting me, so I have some time.
Maybe they'll just reach out to Home Assistant and have them fix it. And then there's like the LifeX integration for Home Assistant. So there's a LifeX integration. There's like 2 that get pulled up through Home Assistant when you go to the devices and add a device. There's one that's like LifeX Cloud, and then there's one that's just LifeX. The LifeX Cloud, I think, requires you to edit YAML, which I'm not going to do. Mm-mm. And then the regular LifeX one, it says that it'll discover the lights automatically, and it does not. So I can't even bring the freaking lights into Home Assistant with the LifeX integration.
Just edit the YAML.
Just avoid LifeX. That's my solution.
Mm-hmm. Seems to be that.
Maybe I can use the HomeBridge thing to the MatterBridge.
MatterBridge, yes.
MatterBridge to bring your LifeX into Matter properly.
That way I get diagnostic tools.
Yeah. You can tell tech support what you're seeing.
I'm seeing this happen. So that's all I got. I'm not a bunch of tech stuff going on. I'm kind of in the early stages of planning the irrigation system. Nowhere near what Gavin's got going on, but I don't want to water my raised garden beds and pumpkins and stuff all the time. So I'm trying to figure that out now. I bought like a water pressure gauge, and we have 60 PSI of water at the faucet.
That's pretty good, actually.
So I got. Is that good?
I think that's good. Yeah.
Is that? Do you guys have the same numbers in Canada? I don't know how. PSI
I just want you to
but...
feel good, man. Like I don't
Nice.
know if that's really good. I'm just telling you it's
right.
good, so you feel positive. But you'll be able to like at least run a drip irrigation system with that kind of PSI.
I've got 53.3 PSIs here.
Man, so I got better than you.
Yeah, you're up there. It gets higher in the day. It goes to 65. Maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got old pipes like you, so not much that's going to change with that. I have to rip apart my whole house to get more PSI. But that's it. Nothing else going on with my garden right now. So we'll start on some of these other projects here soon.
I was looking at your Segway mower, and I was like, oh, that does sound great. But the problem with that one is that the cut height is so small on it. I need the grass I have. You can't cut it that short, or it stops being grass.
Yeah. See, I know that's a real problem. So maybe I have to look into that now.
It just depends on the type of grass you have. Most people, it's fine. This grass here, it likes to be tall, and wave around in the sun. I guess I don't know. So I need like a 4-inch cut on these things. Clippy's a little too cranked all the way up. He's only pulling in like maybe 3 inches, and it's still too short in some spots. So. There are definitely a lot more versions of lawnmowers out there now.
A lot more. I should start considering it.
You should.
Are you going with the H series or the I series?
Whatever the cheaper one. I think the I series, right?
Go big or go home.
I see. This is where I kind of get confused, right? Because they measure it by acre. Does that basically just mean how good of a battery it has?
Yeah, pretty much. Because it'll stop. It should go back, recharge, and then pick up where it left off.
Right.
So.
I don't care how long it takes. I have a small yard anyway, so I don't think it's really that big of a problem. The one I was looking at was the I-105N, and that's good for 1/8 of an acre. They have a I-110N, which is good for 1/4 of an acre, but it's only $300 more. I don't think it's necessary for my yard. It does cutting height from 2 to 3.6 inches.
Well, that's what I was trying to look up the I ones to see what they were, but when I went to the model comparison, it only gave me H options. So
yeah, I don't know. This I think is the newest one. It's pretty funny too. It identifies 20 plus obstacles.
It's got AI.
It does AI assisted mapping.
Does it detect dog poop?
Hopefully.
It's not one of the 20 items.
Definitely want to detect that.
The H model looks nice. They have 2 models. Yeah, basically it's like the size of the yard, and the max slope is the same. Yeah,
most premium. I'm not that rich, so I'm definitely not getting that one.
Just sell more devices.
Whenever it says premium, I know it's not within my price range.
Does the wife need her cell phone?
No. I just get rid of the wife.
Okay, she listens to the show, so I'm not saying anything.
Nah, sometimes.
Yeah, I also have the slope in the backyard, which may be more than the 30 degrees that they're offering here on the I series. So
just turn your slope into dirt like mine is.
It's getting there. It's getting there. The problem is that with slope plus large grass plus dirt holes, Clippy is starting to have problems. So yeah. Oh, you can get a garage for the I series too. Look at that. That's nice. Sun and fun. Well, I got some projects done.
Uh-oh.
Oh, what did you get?
Like done or started?
No, these are completed. One of them was probably one of my longest running projects, probably about 7 years. I've been in the house. When I moved in, I ran some branch circuits basically from my closet to my TVs. So my TVs aren't powered, like they're powered basically by the UPS in the rack, so I don't lose power to my TVs when the power goes out, right? And the wires were kind of going back to a little box, and I just had them like wire nutted together behind the rack into like a cut extension cord, essentially. And I finally took the thing out of the box. It's been sitting there probably for 7 years as well. And it's one of these IEC plug things. I don't know if you guys have seen these before, but I put a picture.
I have seen those. Usually in fancy houses. You must have a fancy house, Seth.
Oh yeah, such a fancy house. You can see where I broke the drywall trying to shove the thing into the box as it had too much wire in it.
It happens.
Yeah. I had to go get some bracing. It turned into a project that was a little bit longer than it should have been, because it turns out I didn't realize that was a retro box that I had put in. And when I was pushing things in, it pushed a little too hard and the drywall broke. But I was able to shim it out and get some screws to hold it in place. And now I have a nice little fancy house plug for my TVs. The plugs in there, plugs right over into the rack with the UPS, and then all the TVs and the electronics kind of stay on and working when the power goes out for a little bit. I finally installed some of the USB, what are they? They're like just USB plug things for my, I have a Sensibo thing running the air conditioner here in the garage, and it had a little wall wart thing plugged into the outlet. Just hooked up one of those USB plug things. I have a bunch of them laying around for some reason. And that's in there now, and I don't have to worry about it's kind of in a utility area anyway, so it's kind of handy to have. You just plug right into it and charge whatever you need. It's USB-A, unfortunately, but there's plenty of that stuff around.
Wasn't that something you bought last year?
Who knows how long I've had those laying around.
We talked about this last year. Yeah.
I already put in the USB-C one in the kitchen. So this one may have, well, no, because I had two of them, so I don't know where they came from. But I had two of them, and I put them both in. So, and I had a Control 4 light that had fallen apart. It was a version 1 Control 4, so who knows how long I've had this thing. The push button pretty much dissolved, and when you push the bottom, like the plastic just went away. It was wild. I've never seen it deteriorate like that. But it was in a hallway, and I just didn't pay much attention to it. Although other people in my house did, and insisted that I get it fixed because it was in the hallway that evidently they used quite often. And I swapped it out. So I got some electrical work done over the weekend.
Yeah, I'm about to do some electrical myself, and I'm not looking forward to that.
Electrical's fun.
I still have my Shelly issue to solve on how to turn 3 Shelly lights on at the same time. These RGBW things are going to be a death of me. So I've got to figure that one out soon. Because evidently, if I leave them on in the middle of the night, somebody wakes up and they don't like the light. And then it's like, well, they turn on by themselves. No, because Shelly has a log. He can tell you when it turned on. It's like the data does not support this conclusion. But that didn't go over well either. And these lights are now hated. But I just need to be able to turn them on and off.
The stats say you're wrong. Step 1, convert them to Zigbee. Step 2, Zigbee binding. Step 3, problem solved.
But with what? What Zigbee what?
Doesn't Shelly have their own version of associations?
I thought they did.
You send a command to one and it will relay it to the other two?
I thought they did have that.
Because Shelly works over Wi-Fi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they have their own little... You should look it up. I think they have their version of associations.
If they have that, then I can... There is something in there that has a URL link thing to do, and maybe I just have to figure out what that callback needs to be on the other stuff. So I'll investigate that. I'll look at that a little bit further. Some of their stuff is not easy to figure out or understand.
I remember them telling me that at Cedia. I actually paid attention while I was there.
According to my quick Google research, they do have Shelly groups in the app. So
the Shelly groups are garbage, though.
Never mind. There you go. That's it.
I did know about the Shelly groups. That's what I use currently to turn on and off the lights, but that does not help me in my quest to make them do exactly what Gavin's talking about. I need the association type thing. The groups is basically on and off, and then a very buggy interface to deal with the RGB colors, which don't work how I want them to either. So all in all to say, I really should just integrate them into Home Assistant or put them into HomeBridge and call it a day. But I'd like to do this somehow that's agnostic to the control platform. And Shelly tends to have problems listening to multiple things. So I don't know. Just got to find the best route. One of these days, maybe in another 6 years after my divorce. This is what's going to happen first.
I'll help you move out when I'm down there.
Yeah, it's just a couple of weeks away. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up the show tonight. We do want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show here, but especially those who are able to financially support the show through our Patreon page. If you don't know about the Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a big shout out here on the show, but every pledge gets you an invite to a private Slack chat, the Hub, where you and other supporters of the show can gather in there every single day. And I don't know, there's been some lively discussions lately. TJ has posted some Reddit links for a Unify. What are they doing at Unify? Were they like, let's just put RGB on our racks thing?
Everything
now? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, why not? I went to basically a Sony event this week. It was for one of my distributors, or
just say it was Davis.
It was Josh.ai. It was not Davis, actually. Davis was there. It was RS Pro Sales.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah, one of those. But they had Josh.ai, Sony, Sonance, Just Add Power, Lutron, and a couple others there. So that was pretty fun. And it was at a brewery, so you got to drink.
Yeah, I bet they twisted your arm to get you into that brewery.
Oh, yeah. It was hard.
We do want to give a big shout out this week to Nathaniel Gorey, who upped his pledge quite a bit. So thank you. We really appreciate that. And yeah, that's awesome. It definitely helps go to support the show each and every week and print stickers. So that's what we're doing now. So
we're just selling
giving
stickers.
away. Yeah,
not even selling them. We're just giving away.
Yeah, we're giving them away.
Do you think we can raise billions of dollars though? I mean, tech companies don't really create any value.
I mean, let's look what Nabucasa's done. And I think they started giving away free stickers. That's how they started. So I think we can do that as well.
Genius.
I have a Home Assistant sticker somewhere. Yeah, right there.
Oh.
So this is my daughter's iPad. Well, it was my iPad. So you can see it has PF Scent stickers on it.
Wow.
It has a Josh.ai sticker under this apple that's got kissy lips. And there's a connected sticker. There's a Moretto HDMI tester thing on there that's pretty, but it didn't matter. The Hello Kitty stuff got pasted over the top of that.
No.
One of my old iPads. It's been repurposed, if you will. But yeah. Stickers, they exist. If you want to help out the show but can't support financially, totally understand. We just appreciate a 5-star review on iTunes, positive rating in the podcast of your choice, or stick a sticker on your car. I mean, people will find out about the show that way, right? Just write in, we'll send you a sticker. You can stick it on your car, and people will be like, hey, what's that? That's HomeTech. I think we need some bigger stickers.
And feel free to add a little extra in the message, saying things like, yeah, I love hearing Gavin every week, or something like that, like feel free, he helped me spend money, or anything. Just say hi.
That's going to wrap up the news here at HomeTech this week. Everybody have a great weekend. We will see you next week.
Take care.
Till next time.